All right, everyone wants to talk about turning keys. Let's talk about all the things with turning keys, because this is the new fad right now, so we're going to talk about it, because that's what we do. We talk about fads in disc golf. What's the magic pill this week? So first, let's listen to somebody who actually knows what he's talking about to some extent, but more old school experience to get a little bit of knowledge as to why this works. And then I'll explain the things you're missing.
Hi, you're here with Dave Feldbergs from Team Infinite Discs, and I want to talk to you a little about grips. Now, I've made other videos that you can find on our media feed that show the way to grip it, but I actually want to talk to you today about the theory of gripping. Then you can do whatever you want. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different hands. They function different. They're shaped different. They're different. But let me tell you what's happening. Then you make your own decisions. So you got 5 fingers. They're all doing something different. Okay? So when you grip a disc, you'll see a lot of people grip it powers, fans, squeeze, pinch, all this stuff. All that really matters is that your index finger, this one, is the guide. Right? So it's not tucked down pressed. It's kind of hanging, tucked a little bit. Some people have it hanging like this. Some people tuck it down. Just depends on your preference. But it's your guide, and that's when you throw, after you look, it's the guide. It'll come out, and you'll see the players like this. It's where your disc is going. It controls where you kind of release the disc. Now your 2 middle fingers work together. You'll see even if people power grip, they're like this. If they pinch grip, they're still pulling those 2 in. Those are your power into your hand and your spin. So how much spin and power you're getting on the disc are coming out of those 2 fingers. Okay? Now the other finger you have is your pinky. What does your pinky do? Well, your pinky, it controls the height of the disc in your back of your hand. So if your pinky's real flat, I can throw it real nose down. I can throw it flat, or I can throw it nose up depending on where I put my pinky. So if you look at that, I can have my pinky flat, or I can have my pinky slightly bent, or I can have it even more bent so I can get the disc even more nose up. So that's what the pinky does.
So as a lot of people are discussing now, people are figuring out that the nose is not the disc here, it's over here. We're figuring this out. I've known it for a while. I've shot high speed to confirm it. I'll throw in a clip right here. Everybody is talking about turning keys, flipping discs, whatever it is. If your grip on the disc is not correct, no amount of pouring coffee or turning keys is going to work. It's not going to work. You have to have all the ducks in a row. We can't just throw a squirrel randomly in and expect it to work. Also, can somebody explain to me how pouring the coffee is this act? Who pours the coffee for? You pick up the coffee pot and you pour the coffee this way. I don't know how this became pour the tea, because I mean, I guess if you do this, I don't know. I don't pour my coffee like that. I pour it from the side, because anyways, that's stupid. For the sake of argument, we're still going to use pour the coffee as pushing your wrist forward. Okay? Because it is important, but it's not what makes you throw nose down. We have to have a bunch of other things in line in the throw, and getting our wrist in the correct position is one of them. If it's up here and we do this, it's not going to work too well, because we're going to have the disc doing this weird thing. Okay? We don't want that. We want the disc to come out of our hand on plane that we're trying to throw. That's important. So if we grip this disc poorly, no amount of pushing down or turning the key is going to make a difference when this disc comes out of our hand, because it's still going to be nose up. We need to get our grip proper. So this old school idea of take the disc and put it in your hand and blah, 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 it's not going to work for everybody. You got to get your grip right. That's the first thing we need to work on. All right, so I'm going to pull from a couple different things how I came up with some of this stuff for grip or grip theory, because if we don't have it gripped right, as I said, it doesn't matter how many tricks we use, it's not going to work. The disc has to work with the articulation of your wrist when it comes out of your hand, because this has to work. So if this disc is in your hand really goofy, it's not going to come out right no matter how much we can push this down, but then our wrist is not going to articulate properly. So one of the old ways we used to teach people to figure out their putting grip was kind of to do this here. Well, that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, and probably one of the reasons a lot of people use the briefcase method in their backswing, is this disc is hanging out right here. It's nice and loose grip, which that part's great. We don't want to be biting down on the disc till later in the swing. But if we just take this disc and we just kind of hold it casually in our hand here, we can find that spot where this disc is going to be good. Well, the problem is when I throw this, it's still going to be nose up, even though I'm articulating my body in a way that I can get this disc to swing out, because as we can see here, that nose is still down. Well, if I push my pinky up, that nose of the disc is going to go down. Okay, so as we looked at with Feldberg talking, the pinky is one of the ways we control the nose. The finger is one of the ways we direct the disc. So if we get it in our grip and we push that pinky up, and I straighten my pinky out like Feldberg talks about, we can get this disc to work in our hand a lot better. And finding your grip takes time. So go out and experiment with your grip, watch it, don't worry as much about trying to turn keys and whatever else you're doing. We're looking to get this disc in our hand in a comfortable position that allows us to get good grip on the disc, but so this stays on plane when here. Because that's one of the most key important factors, is everything has to stay on plane. When we get into the pocket here, everything after this point has to stay on plane. If we're trying to turn the key to get over top of the disc and get weird things going on, whatever we're doing, if you can't already throw the disc on plane out of your hand, no amount of trying to turn the disc over is going to help you. What you're going to end up doing is getting over top of the disc and turning the disc into Anheuser. We don't want to turn the disc into Anheuser. I don't know if I necessarily agree with Paul Ulibarri on the off-axis torque. I'm sure there has some things to do with it. It's a really difficult thing to find out, because we have to shoot that with high speed. Tech discs give us a lot of data, but it doesn't. Tech discs is taking a bunch of data from what you're throwing and doing some averages. That's why we have wobble rate and things like that in there. We don't want to throw with wobble if we can have that happen. So if we're imparting off-axis torque into the disc to try to get the disc to pop nose down, that's not really a good thing in my opinion. So, all right, so we've talked about grip. We've talked about you still do have to work a bit to keep everything in line and here. So let's look at a different method. This is going to be the weirdest thing, and hopefully I can make it make sense to you. I've got a board. So if we just grip this here, we can see there's all sorts of weird kind of things going on. If I change my grip and I push my pinky up, we can really adjust some of the things that are going on with this board. Now, if we're trying to figure out something like the disc being on plane or the weird torques that we're putting on the disc, we can see that when we slowly move the board, and we can see that that disc is going to come out nose up, because the board is accentuating what we're seeing here. Because it's really hard when you're moving slow to see this little circle here versus something when we get it longer. Now, this is not anything you're going to want to rip on, but the whole point of doing something like the hammer drill and doing something like using a golf club. Let me get a golf club. All right, I taught ball golf for a bit before I stopped golfing, and then got into disc golf. After playing disc golf and continually hurting myself with bad form, I got into coaching for disc golf. So that's why I started studying disc golf form, because there's so many things we can do that can cause injuries. We have to be really, really conscious of that. I have a blown out shoulder from wrestling when I was a kid. I kept blowing my shoulder out muscling the disc. So I got really into disc golf form and disc golf theory because I wanted to stop hurting myself. So I got old Billy Blue out here, reference for some of you if you know it. When we have a heavy object on the end of a long pole like this, we can really feel a lot more what that is doing with the body. That's the whole point of a hammer. I get this 3-pound hammer out here. This is a little bit heavy. I don't suggest if you're doing the hammer drill to do something, but this is the closest one. What we're feeling if we're doing the hammer swing is we're feeling our wrist. This hammer is going to help get us into a motion where we can feel this weight getting our wrist in motion and staying on plane. Because when we come through the disc and we go to get to the hit, that has to continue past where the disc comes out of our hand. Now I'm building up to something here, so we're gonna get there. So this helps me feel that my wrist needs to be in a certain position when I hold this. It's a little harder to do the hammer drill out front versus using a board, okay? That's why if I'm just thinking about stuff, I'll get something like this board out. I can really visualize a lot more how that disc is staying on plane. When we get something heavier out, and you can go outside and throw golf clubs, stay away from buildings and stuff, because if you do something stupid and you break a window, it's not my fault. When we got something heavier like a golf club, we can feel the weight pull our arm out. We're not trying to yank everything through and jerk through late. We're trying to get into the pocket and swing out. And it's going to help you feel that wrist motion. That's the point of the hammer drill. That's the point of throwing golf clubs. Golf clubs is a little weird because not everybody has golf clubs. Most people can go get a small hammer. Something even small like this is 12 ounces. It's still enough to feel what we're looking to feel. Okay, a lot of this is feel and understanding that what happens from here to here is important. All right, so we're back to the disc. So we talked about getting it good in the grip. We're talking about getting it on plane. Talking about getting our hand and our pinky and our fingers all in an area so we can control that plane of the disc. So why does turn the key work? Turn the key works is because it's something to visualize in your head for your follow through. Okay, does that make sense to anybody out there? Probably doesn't, because everybody's so focused on what they're doing to the disc, they're not focused on what you're trying to cue to your body. So what a lot of people do when they throw a frisbee or a disc is they here. Did everybody see that? Let's do it this way here. We're out, in, out. You're popping your wrist. Okay? So when we do that, we're imparting off-axis torque, because what happens after the disc leaves our hand, and our hand does this. This motion to do this starts before the disc comes out of our hand. All right? So we're looking, the whole point of the turning the key is to keep your wrist and your follow-through on plane, because that's one of the reasons that you're struggling with nose issues, is because you're not keeping your hand on plane. You're not coming through and keeping your hand up. Everybody talks about serving the pizza or whatever else. It's the same thing in a forehand. When we're throwing forehands, people say don't serve the pizza or whatever. It depends on your grip, okay? There's so many nuances to all these things. You can't explain them all unless you do a long form video. People don't want to watch 15 minutes videos of some idiot like me talking about all these nuances. Some people do. So I make the videos for the people that want to know the nuances. So we're throwing a forehand, okay? If you throw a forehand with a grip like this or slightly like this, you want to keep that wrist up, okay? If you throw with a stacked grip like I do, we still want to keep that wrist up because we're popping the disc through. A lot of people, when they throw their forehand, out, over. Now, if you're trying to influence the disc into a roller shot you would roll your wrist slightly. And what that's going to do is impart off-axis torque on the disc, and it's going to want to push because we're just giving it help. When we're throwing a distance drive, we don't really want to give it help. We want to give it as much time to do what it needs to do as possible. And the reason that you don't get distance when you throw nose up is because that disc stalls and then fades sideways. Or if you throw really nose up, it stalls and it fades backwards. When you actually get a negative angle on the nose of the disc, when it hits apex up in the air, apex is where the disc has reached its maximum potential of height and speed. If that disc is 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees nose down, it's going to want to push. And we want the disc to push. That's how you get that big distance. If you're throwing flat, it's not going to push as hard. Now the problem with that comes to is, I'll watch a lot of people when I'm doing lessons and I'm teaching them to throw nose down. They're so used to throwing air bounces because they throw nose up, they throw the disc 15 foot into the ground off the tee pad. That's because they finally got the nose down. So if you're trying to learn nose stuff and you keep turfing them into the ground, it's probably because you air bounce. Just a cool quick tip there. So when we're thinking about this, we got our grip. We know that we're swinging on plane. We know that if we pop our wrist under, what do they call it, supinate and pronate or whatever like that, we need to keep this after the shot in the same position. And that's how we keep the nose down. So there's all these factors that go into it. And then there's other factors that get into form stuff. And we're just talking about basic stuff in this video. We're not talking about scapula pulls, bad bracing, falling over your brace. We're not talking about any of that. We're assuming that the rest of your stuff's decent. Okay? So that's another reason why we don't want to drop the elbow, because the disc is coming nose up. All these things got to work together. And the other thing that I don't like about turn the key, because I've watched a few people try this. Goodness, the coffee's talking to me. Watch a few people try this, and they try so hard to turn the key, trying to, well, we're going to get our elbow under the disc, and now this joint can't work right because this needs to come out. But we want to make sure that we keep the pinky up. So if it's not making sense to you on turning the key and you've been trying it, it's because you got some other factors that are wrong. Could be grip, could be your follow through. That follow through has to be on plane with your shot, and your hand has to remain in that position. We can't pop our wrist down, or we can't pop it up too much. If we pop it up too much, we're going to come over top of the disc. So there's all your information. Hopefully that explains turn the key better with all the stuff that you're missing, because there's a lot of people that are promoting this, and that's fine. I get it. I get why it works. I want you to know why it works, because it's not a magical pill. You have to have everything else right. It's just a cue for your mental side, because everything's cued. That's why language is so important when it's teaching disc golf. That's why we need to get rid of really, really bad terms, because those tell your body to do dumb things. We want to give our body good instructions so we don't have to fight by giving it a bad instruction, but trying to make it do something else. So if we're thinking about getting this motion, which I'm not turning my wrist over, I'm thinking about keeping my hand on plane. And you can practice this with the Beto drill, which is good, because we want this motion. We don't want to over rotate our shoulders and snap the disc out and over rotate and round the disc. We want to practice getting it out. So we can practice with the Beto drill, so we don't have to throw very far, and we can watch the disc a lot better when we're not trying to throw it 500 feet, get all these stupid cues in our body. Because what a lot of you're going to end up doing when you're practicing this and trying to get this right is you're going to be trying to do full power throws. So you're going to be doing something and you're going to fall over your thing, like, why is it not working? You're adding too many complex things to your throw. That's why standstills for a lot of students, I got one student that keeps sending me standstill throws, and he sends me throws with a walk-up. He's doing a dirty walk-up, which is causing him to have problems. But when he throws a standstill, his form is great, Because as soon as you start moving your body around and you start getting your head in bad positions, it makes your body do weird things. So when we're trying to focus on one thing, we want to look at a drill that's going to help us really focus down. The other one you could probably try is the one-leg drill. I think Trebuchet teaches this. I don't do this particular one, but it helps us think about rotating around our central axis, because we want to rotate around our central axis. So we can think of here and focus really hard on making sure we have good wrist posture in our follow through. Because if you're ever trying to influence the disc in this position to this position, you're going to fail, because you're forgetting the second half of the swing after the power pocket. Things you got to accelerate through into your follow through. Okay? All right, there you go.